focus and attention is what we're going to be talking about here today. So I hope this is awareness for all that are listening here. Is that what you're attempting to do? What is it one that is attempting to do? One must understand that the power of the individual and the individual focus is that one must understand that in order to create the awareness that one is trained to create, one must level its understanding to the level of focusedness. So you're not very focused at times, dear, you know. Your attention is somewhat awkward and around however where you go. And it's not really intentional of what you're trying to create. And so what we're trying to tell you is you need to set an intention and focus on the intention and keep that intention the entire time way you're trained to do it. You understand?
Yes.
It's an addiction to the intensity of the focusedness that needs to be created. You understand?
Yes.
So we got a lot of distractions today. It's not the most conducive environment to be doing what you're trying to do. It's your channeling session, you understand? It creates environmental unawareness. And that's the thing about life. Environment unawareness. That's the thing about life. Focusedness is what is intention, and you have to have the intention focused. Without intention focus, it's very difficult, you understand, to achieve that what you want to achieve, because the mind gets scattered, right?
Right.
So you say thoughts are things, right? Most people say thoughts are things. It's not so much that thoughts are things, but thoughts can take you away from things, right? Thoughts can take you away from the intended outcome, the intended focus, right? So when one puts an attention to the focusedness of what they're trying to create, they're going to have to keep that intention constantly. Otherwise, it's going to fall apart. You're not going to create that which you are to create because your art is into a different thought process. Your mind gets scattered, right? And so you have to think about what is it that you're trying to create? What does it be, a new job? What happens when you create a new job, right? You start an attention. You don't really know you're doing it, but you create a resume, right? You start doing things and you start looking for a new opportunity, correct? And that's an intense focus, right? And you don't really stop because that's the goal. The goal is the new job, correct?
Yes.
And so what you do is you create, it doesn't matter what that is. Once you create the focus, right? Some people think, well, that's an easy thing to do because it actually has you actually have a purpose behind it, right? But it doesn't matter what it is. There's purpose and intentional focus behind everything, right? And so you got to keep that focus. So what is it that you're trying to create? And that's what you keep the focus and intention on, okay? Doesn't mean that it happens the next day or within the next hour, but it eventually the continuation of that focusedness. You understand?
Yes.
So whatever it is that you go to do, if you're not focused, if you're scattered, right? So that doesn't mean that you can't have fun. It doesn't mean that you don't have a purposeful fun. But you understand still, if the goal is the finish line, right? Your focus is on that. Along the way, you can have fun, but the goal is the finish line, right? You're trying to score a touchdown, let's say, right? So once you get in the end zone, okay, that's the goal, right? The goal is the end zone. And so we're having fun, but our still focus is that end zone. You understand?
Yes.
So we have to create that constant focus. Why is one quite a unique situation? Why is one so attached to the place? There's no need to be attached. If one wishes to leave, one can leave. Don't feel you have to stay, okay? There's plenty of opportunities out there. You just need to be aware of it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Don't think you need to stay. It's okay to leave, you know. what kinds of questions do you have for us, dearie?
Well, I'm trying to decide, if we should leave now or wait. And I've been thinking about that lately.
Right. So we kind of tricked you because we know what you were going to do. So the question wasn't very direct and it wasn't very intentionally focused. It was kind of scattered. It was kind of not knowing really what to ask. There was not any intention behind the question. That was direct focusedness. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of tricked you because we want you to see that you have to be direct in your intention, right? Your focus. Have an intention behind the reality of that's what you're trying to create. So you have a purpose and a focus towards that intention. You understand? And it cannot be wishy-washy, if you will. It needs to be direct, it needs to be focused, and it needs to be intensified. You understand?
Yes, I do understand.
And so if we're not sure within ourselves, how is the world going to be shared for us?
Yeah,
We need to be intentionally focused and direct with the question.
that's right.
Go ahead.
That's right. If John and I do not have the same focus, it pulls away from one or the other.
Doesn't matter,
What
dearie.
should I do about it?
Doesn't matter, dearie. What's the focus overall? What's the intention and the focus of what you're trying to
It
create?
just seems like the end game would be much quicker if we would both focus on the same thing at the same
How do you
time.
know you're not?
Well, it just doesn't seem like we are.
Why is that, dearie?
Because
Again, don't have an answer.
I don't have an answer. I don't know why.
So why would one ask the question? Or is this something you're just conveying to yourself?
Well, maybe it's because I think what I want to do is different.
And what is that, dearie?
I want to focus on our finances, getting everything in order, and to me, there could be nothing else.
Okay,
It
then,
has to
dearie.
be tunnel vision for that. We cannot deviate, not even a little. And if we do, I lose it completely.
And how are we going to go about doing that, dearie?
Well, I don't know, and I'm going to work on it.
Okay, then. There you go. So again, it's intentional focus, right?
Right.
8. Once one is focused and centered in self, right? And the idea and the goal is the finish line. The goal is the end zone, right?
Right.
So what is the end zone to you? Bills completely paid, house completely paid, wherever it might be, right?
Right.
That's the goal.
Right.
Then that's all you focus on. And you stay focused on that. It doesn't matter what you do, how you go about it, as long as that's the focusness. The rest falls into place. We don't always need to know the how. We don't.
No.
But if we set the focus and attention, the how will be presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it might come in a way that might shock you. It might come in a way that you didn't even think that was possible or had no idea that that's what it's going to come from.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Uh-huh. Yes.
But we don't need to always know the how. We just need to know the focus and the intentional focus that we're trying to create. You understand?
Yes.
You're on the same page. Yeah, how you go about it might be a little bit different, but the page is the same. What you need to do, dearie, if I may bother you for a bit, it probably irritates you, but you need to quit thinking of so many other people think. Don't worry about them. You know that saying, to put the mask over your face first before you put it on somebody else, right?
Right.
Stop thinking about what others are thinking. Start focusing on what you want and create that focused and intentional focus, right? You spend a lot of time, to be honest with you, on what other people think of you and what other people are thinking. We'd invite you to stop it. Let them be themselves. You focus you be you. Your consciousness and understanding will attract that what is equal to that. You understand? Everything else is sort of irrelevant. It doesn't really matter to you because it has no bearing on you. Now, there are things that are circumstantial that are kind of add to the awareness. That is true. There's nothing you can do about that, unfortunately. But the more we continue to focus on ourselves, those other excursionary outputs, they become further and farther between. You understand?
Yes.
They go away.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start to create a life that's totally oblivious to that of the outside world. It doesn't even come into the question or focusedness of that, right? Because that energy cannot intervene or get in there. You understand?
Yes.
Like attracts like, or say like does not attract like at times, right? You would say. So if that energy is not conducive to this energy, guess what? So you change your energy, this doesn't even enter the equation. Okay?
Right.
It really is that simple. Focus on yourself, focus on what you're lacking and chained to do, and stay to that focus. So what is the intentional outcome, right? You'd like to be completely debt-free, right?
Right.
In all areas of your life, right?
Right.
Okay, then that's the only focus you need to create. Now, here's the thing. I don't want you to think about how you're going to go about doing this. Just keep that intention. The how will be presented, and it might be presented in a way you totally didn't expect. And you might go, wow, I had no idea that was coming. So it may be completely out of your realm of reality. You understand?
Yes.
But nonetheless, it's there. So it's kind of like the universe knows what you're trying to do, but it formulates the energy and then it feeds it to you, you see. But if you're scattered over here, you're wishy-washy. It doesn't really know where to go, you understand? Because the energy just sort of stagnates. It's just sort of there because it's like, I don't know where they're going. Because one place they're here, next place they're there, next place they're here, you see?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what they're trying to do, right? Now, the universe is, well, when the universe knows all, it's not so much that the universe knows all or doesn't know all, right? Let's be in your higher self, let's say. Just keep it simplified, right? The good is all that is, right? But that energy is here and it creates a focus and it starts to generate and move that energy and it's bringing it to you and then you shift, right? So it stops, then it shifts again, right? So the focus has to be there. You understand?
Yes.
The intention always has to be there.
Okay. Yes.
Does that mean you're intense the entire day? No. That doesn't mean you're not living your life. That doesn't mean you're not having fun, right? But you know the outcome. What is it that we're trying to achieve, right? And you have to stick to that focusedness and that intentional focusedness. That is what's going to allow this to go sync, right? And once it's locked in, right? But you're drawing that into, you see? You're drawing that into. The time that most people get into problems is they start to get scattered, right? And then they lose faith in that focusedness. They start to doubt that focusedness. You understand?
Yes.
And then that disrupts the energy. It doesn't mean that the energy went away. It just means it's taken a little bit longer for the physical self to adhere to the etheric self, spiritual self, if you will, right?
Right.
To connect it. So it's about focus, intentional focus. You go there, so you have a game plan, right? And you don't know really what that game plan is, but you know you're trying to get to the end zone. So you design certain plays, you design certain realities, right? And I think that sometimes people get so convinced that they need to design that they get in their own way. And sometimes it's best to just sit and do nothing than to do something.
Right.
And I know that's counterintuitive to a lot of people, right? But the reality is sometimes we just get in our own way. And sometimes the universe has a difficult time giving us what we want because we keep getting in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's best to do nothing but trust the process and go, I know it's going to be all right. I don't know why, but I'm supposed to be doing something, right? The mind goes, I'm supposed to be doing something. But the heart is going, I don't feel like I'm supposed to be doing something, right?
Right.
So let's take something for instance, because we got an individual here who goes, who knows it too, it feels it, completely. But we're going to go to and I know it's, don't tell you to do this or not to do, we're not saying anything here, okay? You understand, it's just a purposeful understanding. But the person that you know here, right, John, goes, I don't like, so like your 50-cent bets, okay? So like you go to a casino, do you feel better betting 50 cents or do you feel better betting $2.50 and above? Or even $1.50, $5?
Feel better with the higher.
Right, but you go against it because you think you're not supposed to be doing it because it's spending all the money too fast, correct?
Yes.
Right. But it doesn't matter because if one hits on the $5 or one hits on the 50 cents, what is the inevitable outcome of that?
Get much more on the higher bet.
Hey, so what are the chances of hitting a $5 and a 50 cents?
Hitting a $5?
Hitting with a $5 bet or a 50-cent bet, what are the odds?
Same.
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 Makes no difference.
Right.
Outcome different.
Yeah, outcome's different, but the chance of hitting is the same.
So what's the inevitable goal, right?
Yes.
So that's what we're trying to tell you about life in general, right?
Right.
And I think we go against what we feel in our hearts because our mind is telling us one thing. So you have to understand something here, and this goes out to everybody out there who may be wanting to hear this. The mind is only generating what it has been taught and what it has been told. Okay? It's not generating that which is feelings. Okay? It doesn't understand that. What it does is says, this is a world that's been presented to me, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing within this world, even though the heart is going counterproductive to that what has been presented. This does not make sense to me. I don't believe in this. There's something feels wrong here. Something doesn't feel right. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know I'm supposed to do this because this is what my brain is telling me. Right? But the heart is saying something completely different.
Right.
So what we would say to everybody out there, we'd invite you to put the brain aside and put the heart into it. And the more you start to follow the heart, you start to reprogram the brain. You see?
Yeah.
The brain is a fabulous tool. It can do marvelous things, help heal people, right? But there's a belief system behind that, right? There's an understanding behind that belief system that when one feels that they come up with an idea and that idea gets presented and it gets solidified, one really believes in that, right? And their beliefs, that knowingness is what then creates it, right?
Right.
And so the brain itself is nothing more than a tool, but yet the brain can also be a tool that will damage you, because what it does is it takes you to a place that maybe the heart never wanted to go.
Mm.
You see?
Yeah.
And the heart is where all the ideas come from. It's the inspiration within the self where the heart comes from. The brain is only a facilitator of that. And sometimes if we think, okay, I'm trying to create this goal. I want to create this mountain of wealth. Let's just say to speak. Wealth is a relative term, but wealth can mean many things to many different people. But let's just say it's a monetary thing. One wants to create this wealth, okay? And then they go, well, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do that. And you go, I don't want to do any of those things. You feel it is, that just doesn't feel right to me. What is it? Don't know. Right? Sit. Eat. Right? Don't do nothing until it presents itself. And it will present itself. Right? And then when it presents itself, have faith and understanding and go forward. But yeah, it may come in ways that you never even thought possible. Right? But the whole time your feelings go, no. But yet the brain goes, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. Right? And you start to do those and nothing works.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing works. And you spin your wheels for years and years and years trying to create something that could have been done within like a day, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. You know what I'm saying to you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But we got in our own way because our brain tells us we're supposed to be doing this. The whole time I didn't want to go this route. It didn't feel right to me. Right? It didn't feel right to me at all. But then I go, going about it. Right? And your guides are going, hey, why are we doing these things? Does it make sense to you, dearie?
Yes.
It's a quite fascinating, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an energetic field, an energetic world we live in. Honestly. And what goes around comes around to a certain degree. We create that, right? We create that funnel, that network. And it just, as we get closer to it, it starts to connect, eh?
Yes.
People spend years doing this because they're thinking what they're supposed to do instead of feeling what they're supposed to do. An ant wakes up to be an ant. That is all it knows. It doesn't think anything else. It doesn't think that I'm supposed to be a bee. It doesn't think that I'm supposed to fly. It doesn't think that way, right? It just knows it's an ant. And it does what an ant does every day. Doesn't go, you know what, I want to be a Campbell today. Right? How do I go about being a Campbell? It doesn't think like that, right? It's just an ant. And so allow yourself to just be human. Human in the concept of all things. And the beautiful awakening experience of what it is to be human. Right? And live that feeling, not so much the thinking. The awareness comes in the feeling, not the thinking. One must understand that in order to achieve, and we're going a little bit off tangent, I know. In order to achieve, they have to feel. It's the feeling that you want there. You understand?
Yes.
It's the intentional focus of the feeling. The feeling's going to create the reality, right? Not the thought. But people say thoughts are things. No, thoughts is the initial impression, right? But when one feels it, when one engages in the feeling of that, right? That's when it starts to express itself in a physical manner. The
Yes.
molecules start to become formulated, and then the awareness starts to become clearer, right? And then boom, it's presented. But it's the feeling that's going to create the reality that one wishes to have. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
One could say, I wish to have peace in the world and go out with signs and protest, which is okay to do. But if you have that same group of feeling people around you, that same group of feeling people in a room doing absolutely nothing but focusing on that intentional reality of peace, of what that feels like on the planet, within the world, within the universal structure of all things, right? That would do more good than standing on a corner with a flag or sign in your hand. Because it's not accomplishing much, you understand?
Yes.
It's going to take longer that way. Whereas this way, sit. There was massive protest this weekend, right? People gathering in courthouses around the world and around the planet, and they're protesting, right? What if you gathered all those people together in an auditorium and you just had them sit and focus on that which they're trying to create and feel that feeling of what it is they would have changed tomorrow? You understand?
Yes.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
Yet they feel the need to take signs and go protest. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, dearie. Nothing at all. But it may take a little bit longer than what you're thinking you want to do. So what we would say to you is this. The intentional focus is still the same. The goal is the finish line. The end zone, if you will, right? That's the goal. So don't lose track of the goal, but how you go about it may be a little bit different. So don't get caught up in the how, is what we would tell most people. And allow them. And if they want a little piece of advice, what we would say to them then is, this is your goal, is world peace, let's say. Then we would say that gather everybody in a room and focus on a meditative practice of feeling that peace and let that amplify outward. Someone can guide it, but what does peace feel like? What does debt-free feel like? Right?
Right.
What does the life that you like feel like? You understand? That's the beginning of the physical reality. Intentional focus. The thought comes and then the feeling has to be there. The feeling is what creates the physical reality. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Any other questions for us, Terry?
No, thank you. That was very good.
We thank all that are listening here. We thank all that are around. We appreciate your time. We hope you gather some